Hello, everybody, and welcome. Super excited to share with you guys how to scale today. I'm going to ask a favor. So first off, as people are starting to come in, because we're still increasing, your mic is hot there, Kenny. Okay, perfect. So as you guys, I thank you for that. As you guys can. As your guys coming in, please let me know in the comments where you're calling from. Love to see where everyone is calling from today, and we will get started as people start entering in. So I'm calling from Buffalo, New York, and I'm super excited to share this topic with you guys. So a couple housekeeping items. So first off, what I'm going to be sharing with you guys today is something I've never actually taught before or shared before. Okay. What that means, give me some a little bit of breathing room, I guess, in terms of the questions and everything. I actually don't. I'll try to take some questions at the end. I'm going to keep this to 1 hour. We'll see how much time I have. There will probably be a lot of questions. I'm going to do my best. Okay. The second thing with that, because this is the first time I'm teaching something extremely new that hasn't really been shared and outlined in this format before. It might be a little rough. So I'm going to do my best. I've been reviewing it all morning, like really trying to make sure everything makes sense, walking through it with my team. I've been working on this formula to scale for about 2 to 3 months. Like today, if someone's like, hey, Kenny, drop me off in the middle of nowhere, was like, hey, let's go, let's scale. How would you do it today? So I'm going to share that with you. Looks like we got people from all over the place. Gary Moore is from Gary Moore. This is awesome. We got a lot of East Coast. Okay, we got a couple West Coast. How many West Coasters do we have on today? I know it's kind of early there. What's it, like 9 a.m.? So see a lot of people on the East Coast. I know that's typically where a lot of my audience is anyways, East Coast. But anyway, so guys, let me go ahead and dive into it. But as you're joining, we're still getting people joining. Put where you're from in the comments. Once again, just agenda, how things are going to go. Number one, I'm going to walk through some generic ideas and concepts that we have to talk about before we get into the actual roadmap or the blueprint. And then number two, at the very end, I have a huge announcement. That's awesome. You guys got to stay to the end. Please, please, please stay to the end. And it's 100% free. I'm not selling any crap or anything on here. So I'm really bad at that anyway, but and so anyway, stay to the end. I promise it will be worth it. I have a huge announcement for you guys that I'm really excited about. That's been cooking in the works for a little bit as well. So all right, so let's hop into the presentation and go through everything. Once again, guys, this is brand new, which it's going to be a little rough because, like I said, I've never taught this before from the level I'm going to describe it. But the second thing, though, is because it's brand new, no one else has seen it. So take that for what it's worth. So hopefully that you guys give me a little leeway there. And feel free to, at the end, let's kind of wait on the questions until the very end. I know I'm going to show you some things. You're going to be like, well, how's that? Or how do you do that? Or whatever, or where's that? Or I don't know. So that always comes up. So let's save those to the end if you can. All right, let me get this screen share picture in. There we go. Okay, cool. All right. Hopefully everybody can see it. Everybody let me know in the comments. Can you see this? Does this look good, nice and pretty? Just give me like a thumbs up or a hell yeah. I don't know, anything. Anything like that. Oh, good. We got someone's from Phoenix and Robert's in Deutschland. Robert, when you coming back, man? When you coming back to stateside? All right. So it looks like, all right, a few people said yes. So good. Good. You can see it. Okay. So let's jump into things. Okay. When it comes to scaling, so let's go over, there's like 3 or 4 concepts that you have to understand that are really, really important. They're misconceptions, they're ideas, they're change your mindset, things like that. This isn't the good stuff. The good stuff is going to come, and it's going to be very specific and very particular, and we're going to get into some weeds. And when I say get into some weeds, I mean we're really going to get into some weeds and some numbers. So buckle up, take notes. This is recorded. You'll get the recording afterwards. So if everything kind of goes over your head, watch it again. Just take it all in and try to take notes and try to follow. Got the Canva roadmap in full HD. Awesome, James. I love it. So, all right, let's jump into it. So, pave your own journey. Now, when I sat down for the first time a few months ago and I was like, okay, how would someone go from making $0 a month on Airbnb, meaning they have no properties, to all of a sudden making $20,000 a month on Airbnb? Because I finally hit that myself. So what was my journey like and how did I get there? And maybe could I share my journey with people to see if they could replicate that? And here's what I found. I started sharing my journey with people and I found out that not everything was they weren't able to replicate a lot of the steps that I was able to do because I started in 2018 with my portfolio. And based on where I was located and the circumstances of that time, I was able to take advantage of housing prices and the types of properties and Airbnb still being new and really get in. And some might call it luck. Other people call it, taking advantage of the times, whatever you want to call it. I took advantage of it and I was able to start my portfolio then. Obviously, COVID hit and I was able to really scale and expand during those early years of COVID. Okay. But the reality is, are interest rates the same as they were? No, they're not. I have interest rates as low as like 3.125% on some of my properties. And then I have some interest rates from recent purchases that are in the sevens, right? And that's where we are today. So my journey, although could be inspiring to you and, oh, if Kenny can do it, he's an idiot, I can do it too, right? And the reality is like, yes, you can, but that's all it is inspiring. All right. I'm not like a motivational speaker. Hopefully everybody knows that by now. If you're here for that, then I apologize. I'm more of like here's how to do it. Now go and do it, like show you the actual numbers and everything. So the reality is like, although I could be inspiring, my story and my journey was unique for me. And there are parts that you can learn from it. But the reality is you can't take that and then go and do it today. It just won't work. Okay. What I mean by this is that there's a lot of people out there, a lot of influencers and gurus out there. Let's call a spade a spade. All right. There's a lot of gurus and influencers out there saying, I did this. All you have to do is all these things. And now you can scale to what I have. It doesn't work like that today. There's a lot more hurdles that you guys are facing, especially starting at nothing, than I had to face. It's how it is. Markets change. And so the first concept I want you to understand before we dive into the blueprint, what worked in the past won't necessarily work in the future. Okay. The markets shift, the markets change. The markets that were awesome 3-4 years ago are not so awesome today. All right. A lot of people understand this, but at the same time, like, do we truly? Because we still want to go to those places because we see these other people and they're shouting from the hilltops. But the reality is the market is constantly shifting. We need to shift along with it and we need to figure out what's going to work. Now, there are actually multiple ways to scale, but the easiest and the most doable one is the one I'm going to show you. And it's not rental arbitrage. Let's go ahead and get that out of the way. If anybody was expecting that, once again, you're going to be disappointed. Number two, it's not co-hosting. If you were also expecting that, you're going to be disappointed. I am all about acquiring and building wealth through owning assets, owning properties, and getting the appreciation and the tax savings and those four pillars of cash flow, tax savings, appreciation, and snowballing, and with the principal pay down and getting equity and scaling. And so that's how I built this formula. Okay. But remember, first lesson of today, pave your own journey. So take pieces from all these people and piece together your path. But you have to use your own goals. You have to come up with your own things. Don't let them tell you their goals and what they did to become successful, because you're not going to be able to replicate that exact same thing, most likely. Okay. So I think we beat the dead horse there. Time. Let's talk about time. So there are going to be two main excuses, because that's what they are, that you're going to tell yourself, when I show you the blueprint and I show you exactly how to do it and all the numbers behind it. I mean, I've talked to lenders, I've talked to other investors who are doing this. I literally 2 to 3 months of time spent building this out and just like having all these conversations, seeing if this is all possible, seeing like what you would do, all these things. I still have people, I've showed this to people, and there are 2 main excuses I get of why they can't specifically do it. And guess what? They're not actually based in logic. It's based on a mindset, which we'll get to that in a second. But the first one is time. So when we want to scale, and I've broken this down into a 5-year period. So scaling in 5 years. So 0 to 20K in 5 years. So 20K a month. So the first thing that we do, a lot of people go, well, okay, that sounds really cool, right? That's why you probably joined here. But so how is it possible? And you've heard other people do this too. Obviously, Kenny's done it, but like I'm not going to name other names, but there's a lot of other people that have done it and have made more money too than that. So it's obviously, it's possible. And what ends up happening is you overestimate the amount of time that you're going to have for the future. Okay. So one of the things that I want you to be wary of is when I share this blueprint with you, I've broken it down, meaning that you are literally going to have 7 total properties. That's all you need to get to 20K a month on Airbnb. Now, when I say 20K a month, I mean 20K cash flow, 20K profit, not gross revenue. All right. So 20K profit a month on Airbnb or short-term rentals. If you get offended by calling it Airbnb, that's fine. But so 20K a month through that, but it's only through 7 properties. So understanding and then when I say that, you're like, well, that doesn't sound too bad, right? 7 properties, that's not crazy in a 5-year period. That's not wild. And the reason why is because we have a tendency to overestimate our time, our future time, meaning in large spans of years, we go, oh, we can definitely do that. We will figure it out. That'll be my future self's problem to figure out, right? But in the moment, though, we always say, I'm too busy, meaning and it's fine because we have life, we have kids or jobs or traveling and got things going on all the time. But in the long run, we never think that far ahead that life will be as busy as that point as it is right now. At least we don't fully comprehend that, right? Think about it. 5 years from now, you're looking at this and you're like, oh yeah, no, I can do this, this, and this. I can do all these things. But the reality is if you don't plan it out, if you don't lay it out correctly, it'll sneak up on you and be like, I don't have time to do that. So when I show you the plan, it's some of you are going to be like, okay, how you're doing it might take some work, but that seems pretty easy to do because you're underestimating or you're overestimating your time capacity. But then the second half of it, when I start breaking down the individual pieces, you're going to go, oh, well, I don't have time to do any of that. And the reality is you do. It's just about priorities and urgency. All right. Which takes me back to your goals of how important is it for you to actually obtain this goal? If you're doing this as for fun, you're probably not going to like the blueprint because it's going to require some work. There's no easy button. You don't have an easy button. When I got started, I was taking risk of the unknown because there wasn't a lot of data. There wasn't a lot of insights. Okay. STR Insights wasn't around at that point. And so I took a lot of gambles and risk. It was high risk, high reward. Right? Because we just didn't have the insights. But it was easy once I figured it out. Today, it's not easy. It doesn't matter. Even if you have a couple of properties, it's not easy just to go get another second, a fifth, or whatever. It's hard. All right. And that's normal, but it takes work. But it's going to take some time. So you have to prioritize your time. Now, is this a full-time gig? No, I have built this out as if I've got 2 girls, if I was going through this whole process myself. Okay. The last little thing here, a little powwow we're having before we dive into the blueprint, mindset. So the only thing holding you back are your excuses. So you're going to, from committing to this plan that I'm going to give you, this blueprint. Okay. So when I show you the blueprint, I want you to take a mental note and literally check yourself. Meaning when you look at it, and if you throw up a net in your mind, if you throw up a negative thing saying I can't do that because of whatever it is, it's an excuse. It's either going to be because of time or resources. Those are the only 2 excuses that come from this blueprint. I've shown it to several people and I go, what do you think of this? And I walk them all through it, and they all come up with one of the two excuses as to why they personally cannot do that or whatever. But everybody can do this. And it either comes down to time and resources. And I'm going to try my best to give you everything I can to help you with both of these two. So there's literally nothing left except you just saying, I'm going to actually commit to doing this. Okay. So let's jump into it. And then obviously this is kind of another underarching theme of the whole blueprint. I already said this. I kind of gave away some of it already. Quality versus quantity. We're in the short-term rental space, and we're not about quantity. That's a long-term rental approach, right? So long-term rentals, you're all about doors. I got to have 20 doors, 30 doors, 50 doors. That's not true scaling in the short-term rental space. Scaling in short-term rental space is all about quality of doors, meaning the cash flow and the quality of the properties. How nice are the properties because they generate more cash flow. So when we scale, don't think about, I want bigger numbers. Think about, I want more cash flow. It's about quality. Okay. So quality and appreciation, those are going to be the two leveraging points you're going to use to pull this blueprint off. So number one, because it's quality, we have to accept the idea that this is not a passive business, meaning we have to deal with guests and cleaners and maintenance people and all these different things. Therefore, it's not passive, and it's all about quality. And you're going to be actively involved. But if you're trying to get rid of a W-2 job, don't replace one job with another, meaning don't replace your W-2 with just a completely another job of property management. I'm not going to show you how to scale into a successful property management company. That's not what you want. You want to scale into maybe 5 to 8 properties total and right off into the sunset. Because guess what? Right now, I'm down to 3 properties. At the height of my portfolio, I was at 6 properties. Well, Kenny, you have less doors now. What's going on there? Are you slacking? I'm actually making more money with my 3 properties than I was with 6 properties. Riddle me that. So that's what you want to do. You need to downscale as you scale up in cash flow. That's the goal. That's the mindset. So get rid of the number of doors and focus on the quality of those doors. All right. I'll get off my soapbox on that one, but that's really, really important. I can't stand it when people are like, how many doors do you have? And I'm like, really? You mean how much cash flow am I making from those doors? So, all right, let's go how I built out this blueprint. So here's the scenario. Obviously, everyone's scenario is different. Everybody has a different cash holdings and their different locations and different limitations and whatever. Like everybody's different, and I get it. So I went to the very extreme and I said, look, if you drop me off in the middle of the desert with $50K, I don't know why I'd be in the desert, but if you only gave me $50,000 that I could invest in short-term rentals, what would I do? So here's the scenario for this blueprint. I literally built it on this. And I'm going to show you how someone with $50,000 in cash in their pocket can go from $0 a month all the way to $20,000 a month in cash flow. All right. So here's all the little nuances and little things I really tried to make it a worst case scenario. So number one, they only have $50,000. Little caveat to that. If you only have $50,000 savings, and that includes your life savings and everything else, and like grandma's pension and all this other crap, probably I would not encourage you to go invest in a short-term rental right now. Or if you have a ton of debt and that's kind of eating at you, in terms of like your bankability and some of these other things, like really not a good time for you to do short-term rentals. Focus on cleaning up your debt piece. Now, if you have a mortgage, that's fine, but like we don't want to over leverage ourselves with these investments. Okay. So although you kind of have to get it right, if you do make a mistake, you don't want to be on the bad side of making a mistake, meaning like you got no other money, no rainy day fund. All right. So $50,000 to invest in short-term rentals, not $50,000. That's all I got. And, for my family and everything. We're not playing that scenario. Okay. But let's say I have $50K to invest in short-term rentals and I've got a rainy day fund in my family and everything else taken care of on the side. That's separate. We're not going to include that in here. Let's say I have a W-2 job. But guess what? I can't really save anything extra for this. I only got $50,000 and I'm not going to be adding more into the pot over time. Okay. Based on my living situation. My location, I happen to live in a suburb near a big city with heavy STR regulations, meaning I can't just go like down the street and STR or rental arbitrage or whatever in my neighborhood. I just can't do that. So I've really tried to go extreme. Like I said, this probably fits a lot of your guys' situation, whether it's a city, whether you're in the middle of nowhere, it doesn't matter. I've really made it limited where you're going to have to invest in other places away from you on your first property. Now, the cool thing is, most of you have more than $50,000. Most of you, some of you already have properties. And that's a really fun part is guess what? You don't have to start in year one. You're probably already in year 2 or 3 and you don't even know it yet. So that's where the beautiful thing of this plan comes into play, and watch how I build this out. So, okay, we understand my situation. I got $50,000. Kenny, what would you do? So we have created a term, and this is the most a fun term that I'm going to coin. And if you ever use it, make sure you give us credit for it. We're calling it stirring. So stirring, STRRRR, is another word for burring. So burring is to buy, rehab. You're supposed to rent first and refinance, repeat. Stirring's a little bit different. There's a little bit of an order, but it's with short-term rentals, right? So you buy a potentially distressed, it doesn't have to be distressed. That word gets overused. A property that's undervalued that needs a few touches to it to be turned into a short-term rental. You update it or rehab it. Okay. Rehab could be a full gut. It could be update the countertops. All right. We'll talk about the extremes of each. Then you're going to actually refinance it. You don't have to rent the property out first if it's going to be a short-term rental. There are loans out there where you don't have to do that. You have to update it, refi it, and then you're going to rent it out as a short-term rental, and then you're going to do it again, okay? And you're going to do it again to a certain point. You don't do this forever and ever and ever. You can if you want to, and that's the beautiful thing of this strategy is it actually leads out and forks off into many different options and plays. But the reality is it goes to a certain point, and then you can start using the appreciation of those properties and the income from those properties to do other types of loans to buy bigger assets that cash flow more, and it starts to snowball. So let me lay it out. So we understand what a stir is. A lot of people know what burring is. Like we already know what that is. But once again, so I'm going to ask you this question, and I don't want anybody to answer this. Why haven't you burred yet if you haven't already burred? Okay, think about that for a second. And think about the 2 excuses I talked about earlier. Okay, time and resources. Those are the 2 excuses people make for why they haven't. I don't have time to do a rehab. I don't trust contractors, which are your resources. I literally cannot deal with that. It's too stressful. All right. Sure. Absolutely. But guess what? That's like part of the cons of doing this is the time it takes to launch and the costs and the contractors and all these other things. But guess what? Not only do you get cash flow from the property, you also get the appreciation of it. Okay. And it allows you to scale quickly. So if you're literally wanting to scale, this is one of the best places to start out with. Now, so once again, when I show you, I'm not there at the blueprint yet. I got a nice little pretty design. It's a lot better than these slides. I'm going to show you for the blueprint. But the blueprint is going to go over each one of the steps. And if you're already further along, meaning you're already cash flowing a little bit of money, you might be able to skip some of these. And some of you might not even have to stir at all. All right. But stirring, do you stir? Like if I have $50,000, that's really the only play you have is to start out there and to stir. And I'm going to go into some examples. All right. So going back to the resources, there are a ton of different options to get in trustful contractors. Okay. Number one, if you use a right realtor, that's really important. And please don't reach out to me about all these different markets. But they're out there. Facebook is a good resource. They can connect you with good local contractors. But there are actually companies today that focus on stirring. All right. And the 2 companies out there today are, I want you to write this down or type in your computer, whatever you want, take a picture of it. I don't care. Well, it'll be recorded, so you'll get this afterwards. Loma Homes and STR Cribs. Okay. So these people, both of them, and I know Loma Homes well, talk to STR Cribs. I've seen some of the properties they do. They do an amazing job. A lot of people think they only do really, really, really nice properties, but I've showed them, I've gone through examples with them, and they will actually do these. And I went through an example of a property and I said, I only have $50,000 in cash, and I'm going to buy this property that's $200,000, and it's going to ARV at 360. And I'll show you the formula in a second. And this is the reno. Would you do the renovation? Would you take care of it? These companies will go anywhere in the United States. They will source the contractors. They will GC the project, and they'll tell you the costs and everything, and they'll take care of it for you. Okay. So if you have the excuse of, I don't trust contractors and blah, 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 you can work with these guys and they'll do it 100% for you. All right. Assuming that, the costs and everything line up, and I'll show you what that looks like, but they will do it for you. So there's these companies out there that will travel anywhere across the country, as long as the numbers make sense, or you're willing to pay extra or whatever it is. But we always assume numbers make sense here. They will travel anywhere and do the whole thing for you. So there really isn't a resource excuse, guys. There really isn't, because there are people who will do it for you. All right. Just like finding deals. Oh, I can't find deals. Guess what? Kenny helps people find deals. So what's the problem from finding your next deal? Okay. Because there's people who will do these things for you and help you out. So, and then if you don't want to do that, you can hire, you trust, and you can figure out local contractors. You can do that. And I would definitely recommend using a realtor who has the recommendations for that. Okay. So there's one. Let's talk about financing. So $50,000, what type of loan are you going to do? So there is a special product out there, and I can give you the name of the lender and everything, and I'll put it in the comments. What's the website for STR Cribs? I'll figure that out at the end. That's a good question. Brenna Carl's, the mortgage shop. So Brenna Carl's at the mortgage shop has a special type of renovation loan. Okay. So I just put her, you can just Google the mortgage shop. Okay. And I think it's just mortgageshop.co, and is the website. And just reach out to her and ask her about this. But it's a 90%, and I'm going to do my best because I do want to show the blueprint. Like I said, there's going to be a lot of questions on this, and I need to move my, let's see if I can get it over to the side here. I'm trying to figure out a way I can, okay, let me do this. I'm going to get rid of me for a second and just talk about this. So basically, if you take if you had $50,000 in cash, you could buy a property at about $200K. All right. So the way the loan works is it's a 90% loan to cost, it's lesser of 90% loan to cost, or 70% ARV with a 12-month term. Let me break this down for you in simple terms. And I encourage you to study this, take this information and go study it deeper to understand it more. But let's look at an example. So let's say I bought a property for $200,000, or I wanted to buy a property for $200,000 that was undervalued or distressed or whatever. Okay. Let's say that the renovations to make it pretty, update the kitchen, bathroom, make it a good short-term rental was $50,000. All right. The ARV of this property needs to be 360. And that's the formula rule I'm going to show you in the blueprint in a second. It's the 55% rule or less. And so your loan amount, because we're doing 90% loan to cost or 70% ARV, is going to be $225. Your down payment is going to be $25K. So if I got $50,000 in order to get this property and do all the renovations, the bank's actually going to cover all the renovations. All right. I'm only paying $25,000. All right. Loma Homes, STR Cribs, any of these other people are going to come in and do the renovation. And then after I'm done with the renovation, I can do a cash out refinance at 80% loan to value. Okay. If the ARV is 360 and I can do a cash out refinance, that means that my new loan amount is $288,000 after the refinance. Okay. After the cash out refinance, I'm given from the bank $63,000. So I actually just made $13K, but hold on. We had some expenses because not only did I have the down payment, I had closing costs, which will be about $5K. All right. Then I'm going to have now some of these will vary depending on your markets. Then I'm budgeting about $15,000. Now this is going to be a 2, maybe a 3-bedroom property. So it's going to be kind of small. So $15,000 in furnishings. All right. Then I have holding costs. So in interest only payments I'm budgeting 6 months for this project, which really shouldn't take 6 months, but I'm going to be extreme here, guys, to show you how possible this is. So in the worst case scenario, it's going to take me 6 months to do this one tiny project. All right. And I'm going to be, it's about $2,200 in interest only payments. Plus I have $400 in utilities and taxes, insurance times 6 months. So I'm paying out about $13,000 plus the $2,400 for the taxes, insurance, and everything. So it's about $15K. That's not actually correct, but $15,000. All right. So my total, this number is correct. We've done the math several times. So the total out of pocket is $60,000. All right. Well, Kenny, you only had 50,000. How are you how's this going to work? So getting started, I would leverage a credit card. If you're a Dave Ramsey fan, you probably just swore and ran out of the room. Okay. The reality is I did this and other people do it all the time. Leverage a credit card for your furnishing budget, your furniture budget. Okay. That's how you can make this work. All right. If you don't have good credit, before you start investing in short-term rentals, like I said at the beginning, work on that first to get to a place where you're comfortable, because you're going to need to leverage a little bit of debt. All right. So 15K in furnishings, I can put all 15K and actually get this number down, but I'm not. So the total is $60,000 for this whole deal. And I actually get 63 back from the bank when I'm done with it. All right. Assuming the ARV is 360. So that's $3,000. That's actually additional $3,000. So I paid out almost 61. I got 63 and I've made about $2,000, a little over $2,000. And I have a cash flowing property. Now, the next question is, no. So it's, Rake is asking is 70% ARV, then the loan amount is 252. So no. The loan amount. So if the purchase price is 200K and the renovations are 50K, then the total is 250. But remember, it's a lesser of 90% or 70% ARV. So 70% of 360 is, like you said, 252. So the lesser amount is the 90%, which is 225, which would mean the down payment would be 25K, and that's your actual real loan amount is 225. So that's why it's the lesser of those two, which I apologize for not having lesser up there, but that's what it is. Which, like I said, we can talk about this later. If you guys are interested, I'll share more about the details of this program. Now, great. After a refinance, so I have $63,000 and a cash flowing property. Okay, first, let's pause there. How much should a cash flowing property actually, or a property that you just got for $360,000, how much cash flow should that make? So let's take basic returns. Let's say this property was only generating about a 15% gross ROI. So if we're doing some math, let me pull out a fancy calculator here from Google. And say we have a $360,000 property times 15%. So the property is going to gross about $54,000. And here's the formula I want you to remember: 30%. So 30% of $54,000 will be your cash flow. So after your debt service, after your mortgage payments, your utilities, taxes, insurance, paying the cleaner, doing all that fancy stuff, $16,000. All right, if we divide that by 12, that puts me at about $1,300 to $1,300 to $1,500. Okay, so that's really where you're going to fall. So that property's right now. Remember, we're trying to go from 0 to 20K. One property, $1,300 or $1,400. We're in between. Okay, so that's where we're at now. In 1 year, in your first year, and this is the blueprint, guys. Spoiler alert. Okay, the recording will be sent out to you and it'll be on YouTube, guys. So in 1 year, you're going to do 2 of these. That's it. So 2 properties, that's all you need to do. It could be the same purchase price, but you take that 50K, you turned it into 63, and then you go do it again. You could do another 50K property, or not 50K, but another 200K property with the ARV being 360. Here's the rule of thumbs I want you to remember. Number 1, the 55% rule. Okay. I kind of made this up myself, so don't go Google it. It's from Kenny, The Dark Arts of Kenny. Okay. So what's that mean? Meaning that our purchase price in the example was 200K and the ARV was actually 360, not 350. Sorry. That's wrong. Like I said, this was a little rough, but 360. So I'm going to cover that up. So 360 is my ARV. So the reality is that's about 55% my purchase price is 55% to the ARV. So if you can find a property that's, because the reality is you're not going to find one that's 200. It might be 210, it might be 215 or 250 or whatever. But 55% of the purchase price to ARV. That's a sweet spot to tell you that that property potentially could work. All right. The next thing we're going to do is the 30% rule, meaning 30% of my gross revenue will be my cash flow. All right. So what this is going to give me is after 1 year, only 1 year, I am now cash flowing. I have 2 cash flowing properties that cash flow $3,000, roughly $3,000. Remember, it's $1,300 to $1,400 a month. That's about $28 or $26 to $3,000 a month. For nice, round, pretty numbers, we're going to call it $3,000 a month. Okay. So we've gone from $0 to $3,000 a month in 1 year. So that's the first year. Is everybody following? Everyone can like say yes or no, or I should go back. Like, just let me know in the comments here. I'm going to keep going here. It's going to get mathematical. It has to, guys. We have to understand these concepts and break them down because it ain't easy. Like I'm explaining this and it's like, it really is. It's challenging. So let me know in the comments if you guys are still following me, or I can go back and go into a little deeper analysis. So yeah, obviously, Chris, there's some risk in doing this. We'll talk about that later. So let's go into the phase 2. So phase 2, which is years 2 and 3. Now, remember time. Okay. Year 2, you have 2 cash flowing properties already. Now you need to go and do the same thing. But as those properties grow, you'll start getting more and more cash because you're cash out refinancing and pulling that money out, and then you have extra cash to play with. So you can then scale up and you can start doing 500K ARV properties instead of 360 or 450 instead of 500. Okay. But all you need to do is take 3 properties in 2 years. So I have in year 3, you only have to get 1 property. You could actually get 2 or 3. And a lot of people who do these burrs or these stirs, we're going to call it stirs because that's what I came up with. So a lot of these people who do these stirs, they actually do like 4, 5, or 6 during a single year. But we're assuming that you have a normal everyday life and a normal job, and you can only have time to do 1 every 6 months, which is doable. It's very, very doable. Okay. And so in year 3, you're looking for 1 property that's a little bit bigger, and the target goal should be 4K a month. So after 3 years, you're now cash flowing $11,000 per month because you have 2 properties from year 1, 2 properties from year 2, and 1 property from year 3. Okay. So, and yes, thank you, Rake. So ARV stands for after repair value. So a property that's undervalued because it needs some updates, you make it look good and nice and pretty, it would appraise for a higher value after repair value. Thank you. I assume it's Rake, hopefully. If you put your pronunciation of your name in the comments, and I will correct myself. I'm really bad with names. I apologize. So year 4. So let's talk about, so we've gone through 3 years and we're now at $11,000 in cash flow per month. Okay. So we're starting to scale. We now have 5 properties that were cash flowing $11,000 per month. In year 4, what we're going to do now is we're going to switch gears. Okay. And some of you are already cash flowing about $11,000 per month, and that's great. And you can actually start here in year 4. Assuming that you haven't already tapped into this, which is DTI, which stands for your debt to income ratio. So your debt to income ratio essentially means your bankability, meaning take your debt of everything like your student loans, your car payments, your current mortgages, whatever you owe, to your current income, and you divide that together, and that gives a bank a percentage to say how bankable you are. They're looking for 40% or less to give you a loan. All right. Now, that's different per lender, but that's usually the rough rules. So they're going to look at your DTI and they're going to say, hey, your DTI is X, and that means you have room to borrow up to, $500,000. But here's the thing, guys. As you take on these properties that are cash flowing now, your DTI your debt to income ratio will actually go down because these properties are increasing your income. Banks will only use their income, at least the lenders I know, will only use their income after 1 year of service. So if you're looking at, and this is important because we think of things like sequentially, but the reality is not only do you have cash flowing properties, but they're appreciating, okay, which we'll get to in year 5 in a second. And then they've also had a year or two of in service, meaning you can use that for tax advantages and you can use that to decrease your DTI. And now let's assume in this scenario, I don't get any pay raises. I don't get a better job. I'm not taking care of any other money. I'm just decreasing my DTI because of these properties. So now you can leverage your DTI and stop doing STRs and actually go do 10% or second home down loans instead, where you only have to put 10% down. So you can buy bigger properties at about $700,000 to $800,000, which is where you want to be, that are going to cash flow about $6K a month. That's the target. So you want to find an $700,000 to $800,000 property, and you want 2 of these in 1 year that cash flow about $6,000 a month. Okay, total between the two. I mean, you can do it with one property, but the total is you just want $6K per month for these properties. That's about 72. What's that? 6 times 12 is 72. And then you divide that. But if you divide that by 2, that gives you $36,000. So an $800,000 property. Remember the 30% rule. So if I take 36,000, which is my cash flow for the year, and divide that by 30%, that gives me 120K. So that means I need a property to gross 120K. I need 2 of those. All right. So 2 properties that gross 120K to get 36K from one, 36K from another, 72,000 total. And now I'm at a total with all of my properties at $17,000 per month. Okay. Leverage your DTI using, okay, I guess point number 2 in year 4 says 30%. Yes, that is correct. Okay. So now we've got, so in year 4, your goal is to now start cash flowing in that extra 6K, which gives you that 17K. So we're actually almost there. All right. But going back to what I talked about at the very beginning, quality versus quantity, we do not want to just increase doors, because at this point in time, if we do the math, so I have 2 properties in year 1, 2 properties in year 2, 1 property in year 3, and 2 properties in year 4. So I'm now at 7 total properties. Okay. So I get to year 5. All right. Now what do? Well, my DTI is most likely going to be tapped out, but I have a ton of cash flowing properties, and some of them are only making $1,500 a month, which isn't a lot. So now what we can do is, this is the time to take advantage of appreciation. So I did some math, and I'm going to break this down. 30% is not the expense, Chris. It's the cash flow. So your expenses will probably be 40% or more if you're thinking about it. 30%, the 30% rule is 30% of your gross revenue will be your cash flow at the end of the day, is your net in your pocket or your profit. Correct. Yep. That I see your second comment there. So that is correct. So I broke this down in year 5. Let's understand appreciation, the power of appreciation. So sell your first 2 properties from year 1. Okay. So if we said, look, those 2 properties, they're cash flowing, they're doing great, but they're only making like $1,500 a month. All right. That's not really a lot. They got me started, which is great, but it really isn't that much. So how do I go from $1,500 a month and take these 2 properties and turn them into something that's going to cash flow an extra $6K a month, right? Because I'm going to get rid of them, and then I got to increase. So just 1 property cash flowing $6K a month, which is $72,000, which is a lot of money. Okay. This needs to be probably $1 million or $1 million plus purchase at a 15% ROI. These aren't 20, 30, 40, 50% ROI deals we're talking about. Okay. I'm talking about 15%, keeping it simple, basic, where the market is today. All right. So how do we do that? You sell those properties. Let's assume they only appreciated at a rate of 3% every single year. So if that's the case, these 2 properties in year 1 would be worth roughly, so remember the AR, so the after repair value, you refinance them for $360. Okay. So if they only appreciated 3% over a 5-year period, the AR, or the value of those properties, would be about $405,000. All right. So, but remember, you did a cash out refinance. You have equity of at least 20% plus that appreciation. So after all is said and done, so your loan amount, if you do all the math behind it, your principal pay down too, because you're paying interest every single month and you're also paying a little bit of the principal. So your total owed would be 275. Really not that much of a difference. 280, I think it's like 288 down to 275. Okay. So your equity in the property before it's being ready to go, and or your equity when it's being sold, is about $130,000, assuming you sell it at 405. Okay, so 130K, and then you got to pay the realtor, you got to pay closing costs and all the other garbage that goes on with it, which we usually estimate about 10% on the high end. So really, what you walk away from the deal is about what's my math here? I got $117,000 from each of those first two properties. You walk away with about 117K. You put that together. Now you have $234,000, or let's keep it simple, $230,000 in cash. Okay, from these two properties, you get 1031 them, and you have $230,000 ready to deploy into a new asset. Guess what? Remember I said it would be about $1 million or more to buy a property? That's going to cash flow $72,000. Well, a DSCR, or a debt service coverage ratio loan, or a commercial loan, you can do 20% down. Some of them, there's some out there that do 15. The interest rates suck. I would say the 20%. So you take 20% of that, and there you go. That's $1 million. It's actually a little bit more that you have. Okay, you still have to have a little bit of cash for closing costs and probably furnishings, but you'll use your cash flow from your other 5 properties and you'll roll it into this one. So you now have $1 million property that's cash flowing $75,000. And if we do some math there, okay, so 75 times 0.3, divided by 0.3, excuse me. Okay, so you're really looking for, at $1 million purchase, you're really wanting a property to gross about, it'll have to do about $200,000. That's about 20%. So, and then that property will cash flow a little over 6,000, probably a little bit more, but 6,000 to be conservative. So you take that property and then boom, you're now at 20K per month in cash flow per year. Okay. With only one property in year 5. So why only one property? And this is where we start to overestimate time, because the type of deal you're looking for is not actually going to be easy to find. All right. And that's why you're going to spend that time that you could have spent on doing more BRRRRs, or, maybe just buying normal properties or whatever, and spending it towards finding the right property. Okay. Which takes a little bit of time and research. I typically, I see people spend about 3 to 5 months on their own looking for a property like this. If you use me, I can accelerate that, but I'm not telling you to use me, I'm telling you how to do this on your own. This is totally, totally doable. You can expedite this whole thing if you wanted to. None of this is ridiculous. This all maths out pretty simply based on the time of our lives and how to break everything else down into this. If you have questions, go ahead and put them in the comments. As I'm kind of wrapping up through some of the stuff, I do want to answer some of the questions here. Where are properties for? That's a great question, because that's what we're going to move into next. So where are properties for 200K that make good STRs that are teardowns? We're not looking for teardowns. We're looking for properties that have very low renovation costs, that have high ARV. And I'm going to give you some markets. I don't know how many. I threw a bunch in there. All across the country where this is totally possible, where people are doing this. Because remember, I took these are real life examples of today, meaning I'm seeing these deals in these markets today where you can pull this off. All right. This isn't made up stuff. So you're good. Petch, you're good. I agree with Chris and Petch. In this tight real estate market with reno costs so high, how do we find properties priced at half their value potential with only 50K to even 100K reno plan? So great question, Justin. It's about finding the markets where you have the gap of the ARV, or the after repair value, but the cost of properties. So you have a wide range. So for example, let's take a good market. Asheville, North Carolina is a really good market. There are 3-bedroom properties in Asheville that are $1 million, and there's 3-bedroom properties in Asheville that are $300,000 or $400,000 or whatever. That's a wide range. Sure, some of them are obviously more luxury than others. Some of them have views. Some of them have pools, or these other elements. But when we see these markets where the properties have a wide range of variability of purchase price for the same bedroom count, that's usually a really good sign where you can do the STR method, it's STR, and pull that off successfully. Okay. I'm seeing it time and time again in a lot of these different markets. And I'm not exaggerating the numbers here. I'm actually being wildly conservative. There are a lot of people who are pulling this off successfully in a lot of these different markets I'm going to show you. And they're not singing praises to the world and, doing a bunch of Instagram videos on it. They're just doing their thing and they're pulling it off. And there's people who are getting crazier numbers than this. And so it takes a little bit of time, but if you think about it, 2 properties a year, that's pretty doable. I'm not telling you to do 5 a year. I'm telling just 2. So 2 properties a year at the beginning, and using resources. And I will get to the resource portion because that's honestly like what you're really asking is, okay, well, great, Kenny. Like, where am I going to find him? How am I going to find him? Who's going to help me? All this good stuff. So yeah, let's kind of move to that. Best deal I found in NC was $335K. Cool. See, there's one for 300,000. But there's other markets. Okay. So here are some of the best markets we have found that you can STR in to do this successfully. Like if I had the 50K and I was going to go and look and start year 1, where would I go? I could pull it off in literally any of these markets. And I didn't make these markets up. I literally found deals in every single one of these markets where this could be done in the last 2 to 3 months. Okay. I've talked to other investors. I ran the numbers. I've really, really, really looked at this. And here are some of the best markets. These are vacation markets too. Okay. There's a ton of other ones out there that work, but these are the ones where you can pull this off in the range. The hardest one, in my opinion, is going to be this one right here, just because of inventory. A lot of these, inventory is tough. But these are all vacation markets where the value in compared to the region is much lower, where you can pull this off in. Okay. So, is this plan dependent on a rough income minimum amount, like realistically 200K or more? I guess I need a little bit more information on that question, sir. I don't quite understand it. I apologize. How to check these markets? What do you mean by that? How to check these markets? Like check these markets for deals, check these markets for data, because, STR Insights is a great platform. But really the biggest thing we need to understand, we haven't talked about it because I don't have time, is how do you calculate ARV, right? After repair value. That's really the next step. If you're going to be like, Kenny, I love this, but this is like brand new to me and I'm super scared. And I have like, which is fine. It's something new, right? It's out of our comfort zone. Okay. How do I understand ARV? And I'm going to share resources and stuff in a second, which would be the next thing I'd want to study, which you can go onto YouTube and study all this stuff for free. All this crap can be learned for free. I'm not selling a course here because it's all on YouTube already. And so I would start there. And then the data, which Rake is what you're looking for, is in STR Insights, you can check the data for the markets for the revenue. Okay. STR Insights, the data platform. So up top here. And then you can use I think there's some other, like you can use PropStream or things like that to actually find potential properties to help you calculate the ARV, but you don't even need those to find these type of deals. So you understand how to calculate ARV. All right. And then Sarah, please ask your question again and I'll try to answer. Okay. So we talked about, the markets. Let me wrap up here because I do want to kind of conclude things. And I lost a lot of people already because it was probably too confusing, but how do you find a deal? So I have people who are consulting for me and we help people do this. Okay. So if you're wanting help, and there are people the consultants on my team do these all the time. This is their main gig, not helping STR Insights, but they consult for STR Insights on the side. So if you want additional handholding, I have people, that's where we came up with this whole thing, who are literally doing this plan and executing, or who have already done it. They've been doing it for many, many years. One lady's been doing it for like 12 at least. So they've got short-term rentals, and this is what they do. They STR, and they've grown their portfolio, and they're scaling, and they can help you do it. All you have to do is reach out and schedule a free call with us, and we'll sit down with you, okay? So that's if you really want some hand-holding through it. But like I said, take these markets, screenshot these markets, and start looking at the data, and understand what to do. So what do you mean taking rundown what do you think? Okay, so one question, Petched, what do you think of taking rundown motels into boutique motels? Will this fit your blueprint? That's a great strategy. I would probably say you could do that in technically year 3 or 4, which is fine. I that's another great way. So the thing with boutique motels, though, once again, quantity and quality. We have to be careful. We're starting to take on more doors again, even though that can help us at the beginning. As we start to scale to more properties, that takes more time. More doors take more time. So although I think that's a great idea about halfway through the stretch, as you get to years 4 and 5, you really want to look for those bigger properties that are cash flowing more revenue instead of like, a boutique hotel that's the same cost that literally is cash flowing the same amount, but you have a lot more guests and a lot more potential problems. You got to deal with payroll and all these other issues that could come up from running like a full legit business where you can just have one property and just be getting the cash flow. So less headache. How do we find good contractors to complete renovations? So going back again, Havon, so first, if you're working with a good realtor in the market, okay, which we have realtors on our site and STR Insights, I think it's actually free. You can see the realtors we use. They have people, they have contractors, they have lists of people they use. So that's one free resource. The other two are these two companies here that can do it for you, Loma Homes and STR Cribs. Those are the two other sources I recommend. Okay. Cool. So obviously schedule a free call if you're thinking about doing a cost egg this year. Now, not just for STR renovations. If you're just looking for an STR that's going to cash flow, just schedule a call with us, guys. Obviously, we know like some of what we're talking about, and we can lay down and sit down with you and talk about the plan more on how we can help you scale as well. But big exciting news. Now that I have I haven't lost everybody yet. Hopefully you haven't fallen asleep. Exciting news. So I am hosting a free virtual conference, a free virtual event on August 16th and 17th. I will say that again, a free virtual event on August 16th and 17th, all about scaling. Okay. So I've invited contractors, designers, marketers, pricing, revenue management, realtors, finance, like all these different people who all help people scale. Okay. Industry experts across the space on August 16th and 17th. And it's 100% free. Okay. There's no sales gimmicks. There's no sales courses or anything that crap. Like none of that. It's 100% free to help you guys scale your STR portfolio. Whether you want to do some sort of renovations or not, it's not all about renovations. It's all about scaling and how to scale and use the right systems and processes all the way from finding to post-acquisition and operations. And it's going to be huge. Thousands of people will attend. And you can go to the site, strscalesummit.com. You scroll down and you can see all the different speakers and everyone here. We have 12 different speakers. This isn't the Kenny Bedwell show. This isn't to promote Kenny Bedwell. This is an event I'm hosting, but working with other people to make it where I'm bringing the top industry experts in to help you scale your portfolio. Guys, it's going to be awesome. Every single one of you, there's a few people remaining. Every single one of you should register. I already have your email, so there's really nothing else I can get from you. So just show up. And there will be tons of free resources, the PDFs, everything you need, and everything here. You just go and register. You can see the agenda if you don't believe me about what the content's going to be, and you can check it out. And you can see everything we're going to do. It's going to be jam-packed. And we want you to be there and to attend, and you can learn about the speakers and everything. It's going to be awesome. I'm super excited. So be sure to register, guys. I mean, this is super, great event planned out that we've been working on for over 2 months now to get ready. Also, guys, I talk a lot about everything I covered on my podcast, Cash Flow Positive. If you haven't started listening to it, if you're not annoyed by my voice, I recommend listening to it. If you aren't annoyed by my voice, then don't listen to it. Because that's what it basically is. And then, we do have a PDF, a free PDF that I'll send you guys after this as well. And if you register for the event, you'll actually get the PDF too about scaling and some of the resources of how we use to create this blueprint. So, look, if you have questions, please reach out to me. I'm going to put my email in the link here. Can you post a link for registration? Yeah, sorry. You know what? I didn't even do the banner. Sorry, guys. So the event, STR Scale Summit, just go to the site. I'll put it in the chat, STR Scale Summit. Anyway, I'm sure you'll hear more about it. This isn't the only time I'm going to like announce it. I'll be announcing it a lot. It's in August. And the other thing I was going to put my email here too, if you guys need it, to reach out for any reasons, questions, whatever. I didn't answer something. If this is all brand new concepts, it was really complicated. That's okay, guys. That's fine. This is new stuff, right? Don't be afraid to reach out and ask questions. I'm here to help you. Okay. So reach out to me and I'll point you in the best direction I can or answer anything about this blueprint as you go through it and study it again. Anyway, I'm going to wrap up here. I hope this was extremely helpful. Like I said, there's a lot of time and energy poured into this thing. And I'm sure over time, I will get a lot better at explaining it and breaking it down. But it seriously works. I'm seeing people do it today in today's market. This is how you do it. Okay. Now, some of you, like I said, are a little bit further along than others, and that's great. Maybe you don't have to do a STR. Maybe you can leverage your DTI or do DSCR loans or commercial products to scale. But you need to use some of these rules here to help you understand what's going to work and what's actually going to help you meet your goals. So I hope you enjoyed this presentation. I look forward to it. I'll be doing some stuff later on in the month, so pay attention to that. But everything's obviously free. And then obviously show up, guys, register, come to the event. It's going to be awesome. Loads of good content. And I'm super excited. And let me point out something too. I'm going to say this publicly. I vetted everyone's presentations. Okay. They had to come to me and I had to work with them on their topics. So I already know what everyone's talking about, which you can see in the agenda, but we really crafted it towards helping you guys get the right information from everybody. So it's going to be the best of the best. And I look forward to seeing everybody there. So thanks, everybody. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope this was helpful. Let me know in the comments if it was great, if it was helpful, if you guys learned something new. Hopefully you did. And feel free to reach out if you have any questions. You guys have a good rest of your Monday and a good start of the week.